Hi, this is Anna Horford, and you're listening to Horford Happy Hour. All right, guys, thanks for joining me on another episode of Horford Happy Hour. This week's guest is Nick Gelso, who is the CEO and founder of CLNS Media. He also talks Celtics on the Garden Report. He covered about 60 games for the Celtics this season. So, Nick, thank you for joining me.
Anna, this is like long overdue. And I'm so happy to drink wine with you and talk about whatever anything.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you on. And well, the wine I'm drinking this week is called Acronym Red, and it's delicious. It's got red berry fruit, hints of roasted coffee, vanilla, and milk chocolate. So,
and do you taste all these flavors? I used to be in the restaurant business, so the wine salesman would come in and say, "There's over notes of plum and peach peels and lemon rinds." Do you actually taste it?
I'm getting better. I feel like my palate is becoming more refined, but for the most part, either I like it or I don't.
So here's the thing. You sent me an amazing bottle of Francis Ford Coppola Red Merlot, and I already drank it, so I'm half in the bag. And I'm now on to my cheap Boda Box Chardonnay, which, yes, it is wine in a bag in a box.
Well, it's always good, I feel like, to almost some people say drink the cheap wine first, but if you drink it second, you're already buzzing off of the good wine.
You don't taste it anymore then. That's the key. You save your taste buds for the good wine, and then you move on to the cheap wine that's been the good thing about box wine, everybody wants to stick their nose up at it, but if you live in the city, it fits in your small fridge, and it also really never goes bad.
Is that true?
It will go bad, but it takes a long time.
Yes. Well, maybe I will try some boxed wine soon.
Oh, man, I'm going to send you a Boda box. How's that?
Yes. Perfect.
Cheap date.
I don't turn down alcohol very often. So
neither do I.
So yes, I will accept that gladly. So this episode, I just really wanted to talk to you and kind of do a Celtics season recap. And, I'm still kind of hurting from our last loss. That one stung a bit. But now I'm ready, to talk about the season, the good and the bad. And, we were 55-27 this year, second in the East. We made it to the Eastern Conference Finals. We had a solid squad. And so I want to know what you think and what surprised you the most about this season and what surprised you the least.
Wow. Okay. So we were covering opening night in Cleveland when obviously Gordon went down. 5 minutes in, I'm doing our post-game show on the court there with Joe Sway, and I said, I don't think this team is going to be 500. And of course, the emotion of the evening with what happened with Hayward and seeing how upset the players were. I mean, it's just upsetting. It got to me. So I didn't think this team was going to be able to perform even with Kyrie. So to see what they were able to accomplish that's the biggest shock. I mean, it's remarkable. And I think even though there wasn't a championship, I do believe this team, the character, the heart of this team will be remembered within the long history of the Boston Celtics, because that's what the franchise is all about, right? So that's probably what was my biggest surprise. What was the second question? See, I'm a little drunk from that Coppola.
Yeah.
The second question was, what was I not surprised about?
Yeah, what were you least surprised about?
Oh, man. I was least surprised that Kyrie Irving is an alpha and he could lead a team. Because I think coming into the season, there was all that speculation, between Kyrie and LeBron. And is Kyrie, a bit of a diva? We all know LeBron could be a diva. What's the expectation? Could he lead a locker room? And let me tell you, I mean, having covered both seasons, and you probably know this from Al, and I don't even know if I'm perceiving it accurately, but this is from an outside perspective, just being on the exterior. Looking at the Isaiah-led teams, this is no knock on Isaiah because I love him, but that locker room was so loosey-goosey, and it was fun, and they were really animated and just really interactive with the media. Mm-hmm. And this season, from training camp, when Gordon was there, and then especially after Gordon got injured, it was all business. It was so serious, and just all about hoops. And what I think that shocked me the least, because I felt coming in that was Kyrie Irving. And I think that is a lot of his impact on the team, even after he got injured, because you saw that continue. I mean, these guys were great. They're not there to be our friends, obviously, but it's nice to have players to cover that are engaged and want to speak with the media, and they do. But it was a different atmosphere, and there's no question in my mind, Kyrie Irving is an alpha dog, and that shocked me the least. I can't tell you how many fans would be like, "Oh, Kyrie's never gonna you're never gonna want to re-sign Kyrie." Like, are you nuts? Like, are you crazy? Yeah. I mean, and I don't know if those are two good things, but that's probably my biggest surprise and not surprise. Great question.
Right. And this team was so fun.
Mm-hmm.
So fun to watch. And I think they came in with kind of a chip on their shoulder, and everyone was already shutting them down after the Hayward injury and everything.
I was one of them. Yep.
Yeah. And so I think they got that in their heads, and they're like, okay, we're about to shut some people up, and they did.
They really did. I mean, let's add another shock there I don't think I was shocked, but I was super surprised, pleasantly surprised at Jason Tatum. I mean, come on. I know I've been covering the NBA since 2009. I've been watching it since I'm a little kid in the 80s. I watched Paul Pierce as a rookie, and I mean, recently Mike Gorman was on one of our podcasts, and he said, Tatum is the best he's seen since Pierce. And of course, Gorman knows more than me, but Jeff Goodman was on the same podcast the previous week saying Tatum is the best rookie for the Celtics since Larry Bird. That's like 40 years. I mean, and what that kid did I hate to even call him a kid, what that man did this year, the guts on him. I mean, all of that. It was just such, I watch him and I think, my goodness, like, there could be an earthquake with how good this team is when he gains a couple pounds and gets another year under his belt.
So would you say that's who you were most impressed with this season then, was Jason?
Yeah, I think Jason was, and I was impressed with Jalen too. I mean, he obviously came back from his rookie year with an agenda in the offseason, last offseason, become a better jump shooter, and a better decision maker in traffic. And I think especially from the jump shooting side, he's definitely improved that. I mean, but Anna, who wasn't a surprise? I mean, besides your brother, really, we know what we're going to get from Al, thank God. Rozier, I mean, come on, that was shocking. Smart probably wasn't a surprise because you know what you're going to get there. You're going to get the good, the bad, and the ugly. But when it's good, it's amazingly good, right? He always makes the big plays. I'm trying to think of who was not a pleasant surprise this year. I didn't think Aaron Baines would make the impact he made. I was a doubter. Once Gordon went down, and then once Kyrie went down, I'm like, oh, God. Not only is this going to be terrible, but we're going to lose a ton of money this year. And thank God everybody surprised me and proved me wrong. And every game in the postseason, we do predictions like every game in the postseason. Actually, all of us, I think. Jimmy, Josue, at least Jimmy, Josue, and I, we predicted every single game wrong.
Really?
Yeah, it's never happened before. So you want to talk about surprise. Every day, every game was a surprise. And you're right. Last year's team was really fun to watch because of Isaiah, right? But this year's team, the team was fun to watch. And then watching them go after the Cavs, who a couple tweaks in that game 7, I think they had it. Go after the Cavs, which is such an I hate to be, bitchy about the Cavs, but they are an I first team where with the Celtics, you didn't know night to night who was going to step up and be the leader, but someone always did.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know, I just feel like our team's dynamic was so great. And you can tell that these guys actually really care about each other and they always have each other's backs. Like, you think about when guys were getting shoved in the postseason, when Al got shoved by JR,
Marcus was there.
Yes, he was about to throw hands for his teammate. They love and respect each other. And I think that's why we've had so much success. And I know that there are probably a few, but what do you think your favorite moment of the season was?
Oh, man, there were a ton. Oh, man, I'm not saying this because I'm on the phone with you. I'm not one of those like sports reporters that says, oh, I'm not a fan. I am a fan. I'm a fan of the Celtics since I'm 5 years old. So I have and so I'm a fan of your brother's. When he would get hyped up, and it's not often you see Al with emotion, so it makes it all the more exciting when he would, especially in the home games at the Garden. You know, Al flexing, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Exciting, fun, amazing. And then Tatum, I mean, going head to head, not just with LeBron, but with every alpha on every other team during the playoffs. Right? That was fun. The Houston game, how fun was that? I mean, when they came back and won that, how many comebacks did they have this year?
Didn't we lead the league or something?
I think so.
In comebacks? I think we did.
It goes to show what belief in each other, which they most definitely had, does for a team. And again, I'm not knocking the previous season at all. Please don't take it that way. But there were times where they would go through scoring droughts or times where Isaiah was having a 20-point fourth quarter and everybody kind of stood around and watched. And then all of a sudden they'd have a scoring drought and they couldn't dig out of the hole. This year felt more, it's weird to hear me say this, it felt more like the Big Three era where no hole was big enough for them to dig out of. Like I always felt that as long as there's enough time left on the clock, no matter what the deficit is, they could climb out of that hole. And that's just belief in each other as a team. And and you heard it every single post-game press conference, right? And especially in the playoffs. You know, and Jason, how many people are putting credit on Stevens putting credit on Al. Everybody's shifting. You always hear people shifting the blame, like J.R. Smith. Like everybody's shifting the credit on the Celtics. And that's what Celtics basketball my entire life has always been about.
Yeah, and it was great. And like I said, I mean, I think that's why, you know, we were so successful is that we just played selflessly, and it was a beautiful thing. And I'm going to tell you my favorite moment of the season.
And your biggest surprise and non-surprise. I want to hear both.
My favorite moment of the season was the Game 3 overtime win in Philly.
I was there when they blew off the streamers, Anna.
Oh, Confetti Gate.
How great was that? And now what's going on with Twitter Burner Gate?
Yeah, no. So I loved it, especially because Al kind of had a quiet first half that game. Yeah. And then, you know, he came out, I believe it was Marcus Morris who like lobbed him that pass for him to get that layup.
Yep.
And put us up. And I just think that was like so great for our team's confidence. And I just, you know, it really propelled us, and it was just that much more satisfying because, you know, they had already, you know, let go of the confetti and whatnot. Ugh. So I feel like that was like one of the most satisfying games.
I got to comment on some of that because Philly fans, I don't know if you've been to I almost said the Spectrum, to Wells Fargo for a Philly game. Philly fans they're kind of similar to Boston fans, only a lot more crude, but they do know their hoops, but they're crazy. And that confetti went off, and it was just like the Twilight Zone. But that'll always probably be my first biggest takeaway from that, or memory of that game. The second will be, and you'll rarely hear me say this, but the locker room after that game, I have never seen, and I'm going back to the Pierce era, like in a non-championship type situation where the players were just so elated. I mean, everybody was just completely psyched. Like usually they're honed in right on the next game, and I think by the time, you know, everybody got to the media, they were focused in on the next game. But that initial reaction when the locker room first opened, and you know the guys are on the phone with their wives or their kids, your brother was speaking Spanish to somebody, like everybody was just so excited because no one saw that coming. So what was your biggest surprise?
I mean, I feel like I kind of have to take your lead and say all of the guys who stepped up throughout the season because, you know, you're right. It wasn't just one or two guys. You know, we had several guys who really came in clutch. And so I think that was awesome to see. And I hope we build on that next season. And I was surprised the least, and I know I'm going to sound biased, but it's true, is Al showing up in the playoffs the way he did because, you know, that's what he prepares for every season. And, you know, people were kind of shitting on him around like the All-Star break time and whatnot. And, you know, all the talking radio heads and that one kid who came up with that article that was like, Al Horford's a major problem for the Celtics.
Yeah, like, come on.
And it's like, well, we wouldn't have made it past round one of the playoffs without him. or round 2, or so.
No, let me jump in on that. They wouldn't have made out of round 1, no question. And I don't want to make it seem like, as again, I'm trying to watch how much I gush on Al here, but how many times did I tweet out? I probably game 3 a million times versus the Sixers. I would just tweet out max player. That would be one of my most retweeted tweets of the playoffs, because all of a sudden now everybody's an Al fan, but 4 months ago everybody was saying average Al, right? And that, to me, one thing about Al Horford, to me, and I tell people this who bitch about him, is you really, unless he's kind of dominating the way he did in certain games of the postseason, you don't realize how much he does unless you're there in person, because so much happens off camera. The communication, the encouragement to the other players, the passing, the positioning, screens. I mean, I could go on and on and on. And that's why guys like Lou, who's a friend, I mean, I have no problem mentioning his name, but Lou Merlone has no clue. He doesn't go to Celtics games. I don't know if he watches them. So the point is, you have to really, really hone in and watch. And they're the players that are fun to me in my career, because they're not, jumping up and down saying me, 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 me. They're talking about you, as in their teammates. And that's exactly what the Celtics team needed, because think about all the inexperience they had on this team. They needed a leader, and Al was the leader.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, as far as the whole like Merlone thing and stuff goes, these guys, obviously, if you know basketball, you kind of know that their opinions aren't the most informed ones. Right. And I realize he's your friend, but
it's a professional friendship, and he can listen to this and hear everything I say, because I would tweet it at him all day long. It's all good. Say it.
Yeah. So, and I think he loved writing that average Al wave, by the way.
Of course he did.
It gave him life. It gave him purpose. It gave him whatever in the basketball community in Boston.
Correct.
So he was just doing his thing, not saying that I necessarily am the biggest fan of it, but he's doing what he has to do to stay relevant. So whatever.
Right. I think he talks about you enough that I think he's your fan.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. He does mention
quite a bit.
Twitter and whatnot quite a bit. So
all I got to do is nudge him on Twitter, and it's on the radio, and in the next hour, him and Ordway are going at you. And it's, truthfully, there's enough topics in the NBA, right, that we can talk all day long and don't have to really pull anything to be interesting. But the Boston market just loves hot take, and that's Lou. I'll tell you, Joe Sway had your back hardcore, and I mean, he was all over Lou. Had him on the podcast, and I thought Joe Sway really put Lou in his place a bit.
Yeah, I appreciated that. He definitely had my back, had Al's back, and yeah, no, I absolutely appreciate that. And you just gotta. Sometimes I honestly just tune it out.
I look at it this way: like if someone is criticizing me on our YouTube videos, they'll be like, the fat guy on the right, blah, 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 blah. And I agree with Nick, but I'm the fat guy on the right. I'm like, okay, well, they know my name, so they must. So it is what it is.
People are such assholes.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm really not that fat, so it's all good. The camera puts on 10 pounds, Anna.
Yeah, that's all I'm going to say, though, is that people are assholes, and they are very brave behind a screen.
Typewriter gangsters, yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so this is a question that I've been asking a lot of people, just because I feel like the answers are often very split. So if you had to pick, who would you choose to stay on our team next year? Would you choose Marcus Smart or Terry Rozier?
Marcus.
And why?
It's a great example, kind of similarly to what I just said about Al. If you're not covering, you don't have to be covering the team, but if you're not there it helps when you're covering the team because you see practice too. But if you're not there in the arena watching Marcus Smart, you don't get the full spectrum of what he offers. Yes, sometimes if there's a boneheaded play or a shot that, you're just, oh, damn, fuck, why did he do that, right? But he always seems to hit the big shots when it's time. And he is definitely a locker room guy, as much as I can see from my vantage point. No one on the team, especially Stevens, has anything but positives to say about Marcus. So, it's nothing against Terry. I love Terry Rozier, but I've seen 4 years of Marcus Smart. I know his bad points. I know his good points. we've seen a couple months really where Terry's gotten a chance to shine, and it's been really fun to watch him grow. But with the current roster as it's constructed, I like Marcus backing up Kyrie. I like Marcus being the flexibility, the versatility, the defensive versatility. There's one thing about Terry, and it's no knock on him, but the Cavaliers really exposed his defensive inabilities, especially in pick and roll type situations. He just had a real hard time with that. I think Terry's going to be a great player, but he's not going to be a starter for the Celtics. Let's face it. And he wants to be a starter, and I hope he is somewhere a great franchise because he deserves that. So I hope it's Marcus Smart. I really do. And I hope Marcus doesn't get wrapped up in his agent so much so that he, takes an offer for $1 million or $2 million more somewhere else. I hope he takes a little bit of a discount. Easy for me to say, it's not my money. But I hope he takes a little bit of a discount to staying green because he just offers the intangibles. He reminds me of being a kid and watching Dennis Johnson. There's no real comparison. Dennis Johnson was a way better player, MVP. But as he got older, he was kind of that guy who could go 3 for 11 or 3 for 13 in the game. But Larry Bird, if he was covered, he'd pass it off to DJ with 2 seconds left on the clock to hit the game tying or winning shot. Marcus Smart, he's going to always do something that's kind of like head scratching in a way, in a bad and a good way. I mean, I don't remember what game it was, but that shot where he was supposed to make the first free throw, he missed it. Missed the second, he made it, I think? No. He was supposed to, I forget how it went down, but then he chased down, he went from the free throw line to the opposite baseline and stole the ball. I think that was against Philly, wasn't it, in game 5? It was a series clincher. It had to be Philly.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a typical Marcus Smart play. Like, he misses what he's supposed to make, he makes what he's supposed to miss, but then somehow he miraculously gets 60 feet down the court from the free throw line to the baseline to steal the ball. I mean, that's storybook, or, that's A1 casting right there. That's Marcus Smart. Again, no knock on Rozier. I think he's going to be a great player. He may be an all-star. He's definitely going to be a great player. But yeah, I hope Marcus doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah, no, I mean, Marcus makes mistakes as all players do,
right,
but he always seems to make up for it.
Right.
Always. Every time, like, especially, I feel like the bigger the mistake, the bigger, he makes up for it. And so I think he's obviously very clutch. I think both him and Terry have like this grittiness about them that I really, really appreciate. And it's hard. I feel like Terry could be a starting point guard, on lots of different teams in the NBA. And, the city of Boston loves Marcus. I'm a fan of both of them, so I'm not going to choose. I just made you choose.
Oh, come on. That's so PC. I honestly think, I think this season coming, if Marcus will take a short pay cut, there's no reason to get rid of either of them. I mean, Terry's still on a rookie contract, right? So why would you get rid of him until you have to pay him? Then you do the same thing you did with Rondo. You do the same thing you did with Marcus. You wait until somebody gives you an offer and see if you want to match it or not. I'd love to see all of them stay. Great unit.
I'd like to take a minute to talk to you guys about Storyworth. So, everyone has a family member who always tells the best stories. And Storyworth makes it easy and fun for your loved ones to share their stories with weekly emailed story prompts that include questions you've never thought to ask. And at the end of the year, your loved one will get their stories bound in a beautiful hardcover book. It's a great way to stay in touch, hoping to bridge geographic distance by providing lively discussion topics. You also get to learn about your relatives and preserve memories that can be passed on to your children and their future families. I'll be gifting Storyworth for Father's Day, and I'm so excited to hear some classic basketball stories about our dad from different members of our family. For $20 off, visit storyworth.com/HHH when you subscribe. Again, that's storyworth.com/HHH.
And you had also mentioned, I know that, like, saying that the Cavs had kind of exposed Terry in certain ways. What were your feelings on that series in general?
It's so hard. Like, my credibility always gets challenged when I ever have to talk about LeBron because I just struggle with him. I thought it was going up 2-0 was amazing. Being at those games was amazing. They missed Kyrie terribly on the road. It was glaringly obvious, and that's where you would see Rozier in particular, but to a certain extent Brown, exposed until game 6. I mean, Brown both of them, I think, came through very well. In general, I don't like watching the Celtics play the Cavs, not just because the Cavs eliminated them 2 years in a row, but also because there's so many whistles that the game is so choppy. And basketball is beautiful because it's flowing and it's free flowing and it's moving, right? Everything's moving all the time. And there's all those whistles every time LeBron touches the ball, kind of denigrates the quality of the game. So I think they had guts, balls. They took LeBron James to 7 games without Gordon Hayward, Kyrie Irving, Shane Larkin, throw him in there too. Tice, that was a huge loss. If you think about it, back to opening night, to take this full circle, somebody told me they were going to go 7 games against the Cavs, in the Eastern Conference Finals without Gordon Hayward or Kyrie Irving. I would have just been like, you're crazy, Homer, take the green goggles off. But they somehow did it, and they didn't just get there. They competed once they got there. And they took them 7 games. Couple tweaks at the end of the game, which may have been on Stevens. You'll never hear me criticize him, but there was a couple tweaks that could have happened that it could have very easily gone the other way. It's a the whole playoff run was great foreshadowing for what's to come.
Yeah, absolutely. And I kind of agree with you. I mean, it's a little annoying watching LeBron teams sometimes get certain calls or whatever. You can't blame it all on the refs, obviously. Because we didn't play our best basketball. We could have won game 7, which I think that's why it stung so much when we lost. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, and there's just like a chippiness going on, like JR shoving Al midair and all that. And when I tweeted "fuck you, JR," which I realized.
How many bottles of wine was that, Anna?
I had tweeted after. I was like, okay, obviously emotions were running very high, but Shaq DM'd me or whatever, and he was like, I appreciate your tweet about JR. Like, I hope your brother does well. I hope they win, kind of thing. And so I thought that was funny. That tweet obviously kind of blew up. But,
oh my God, it blew up.
But I don't feel bad about it at all. I mean, that he could have seriously injured, Al. And so that just wasn't cool. He even admitted it after the game and then got to stick around for the rest of the series.
Yeah. How does that happen? Explain that to me.
So it's like, would that have happened if it weren't a LeBron James team?
Yeah, so I think the basketball gods got even with JR because, boy, is he taking a complete beating now after game 1 of the finals. And I don't know about you, but I think everybody in the league knows JR is kind of a bonehead, right? We saw what he did with Al. It's not the first time he's done that with a multitude of different players in different situations. And to me, if Kyrie Irving was on that team for game 1, that wouldn't have happened because the point guard would have made sure I'm going to get the boneheads in order first and let them know we're calling timeout, we're not calling timeout, or most importantly, what's the fucking score, right? You have LeBron at the top of the key who's concerned with LeBron. Lou is concerned with LeBron. If anybody's going to get a crazy rebound over KD, it's going to be JR because shit just happens for him all the time that way. And after the game, what really, really shocked me was nobody had his back. Like, nobody just said, you know what? JR messed up. He does more good than bad. Tomorrow night, he's going to be amazing. Instead, everybody was like, I don't know what happened. I don't know. I'm not in JR's head. Like, and that's the difference between the Celtics and the Cavs. The Cavs are in the finals right now, but next year's coming really quick. But anyway, the point of this was, Anna, it was a dirty play on Al. JR didn't get suspended, but the basketball gods got even with them in game 1. And the whole Cavs team doesn't look like a team. They look like a bunch of 5 people on the court playing 5 different games. I'm going to get beat the hell out of on Twitter for this.
Yeah, no, I mean, I kind of agree with you. I think a lot of people are seeing it now. I think they're getting exposed in a lot of different ways. And I don't know. I think that losing to them this season is going to make getting a title next season so much better.
With Hayward and Kyrie healthy, throw Tyson there too, because he was a big piece all year long. Do you think they can beat the Warriors or the Rockets?
Oh, for sure.
Okay, and who were you hoping to see if the Celtics were to get that far? Was it the Rockets or the Warriors?
I mean, to be honest, maybe the Rockets just a little bit over the Warriors. Both teams challenge us, a lot. And but the Warriors have this obnoxious super team thing going, and I don't think anyone wants to face them, but if we have a fully healthy squad with Al, Kyrie, Gordon, every guy that, Jason, Jalen, I think that we stand a really, really good chance. And I think we're going to be a fun team to root for because we're going to, we're taking down Goliath when it comes down to it. And so I'm really excited. And so how do you predict like our dynamic is kind of going to shift with next year's team?
I was legit just going to ask you the same thing. I don't like personality wise. I don't know how much it's going to shift because like I said, I think the mood and the setting Kyrie set early on after Gordon got injured, they stuck with that through the playoffs. It was as if Kyrie was in the locker room and he wasn't, so that serious, go to business, get your lunch pail, go to work type mentality. We're here to win. You don't believe in us, well, we're going to prove you wrong, right? So I don't think the personality is going to change so much. My question is rotationally, what are they going to do, right? Because now you have just a glut of talent. I mean, there's so much. So what? Jalen's probably going to go back to the bench, I would imagine. Jason is going to be starting alongside Hayward and Kyrie. And right, I'm not going to go through the whole starting lineup. So all I know is they're going to win a lot of fucking games, right? That's all I really know. They're going to win a lot of games. And don't be surprised if out the gate, and we could pull this audio out the first month of the season, they may struggle a little bit because people are forgetting this team. Like Gordon Hayward played 5 minutes. 5 minutes. Yeah. That was so devastating. I mean, with your closeness, obviously family, how is that? I mean, it's obviously gruesome and horrible to see no matter who it is, but knowing your brothers, how it impact his season as well. Like what ran through your head opening night?
Well, I mean, I was obviously just very like sick to my stomach. I was in our mom's living room with my other siblings, and we were watching the game really excited because we were just ready to beat the Cavs. Right. Like we were so ready.
Almost did.
Yeah. We still almost beat them after seeing something that horrific and tragic. And I think that it really shook the guys, obviously. And it's something that it's hard to shake. It's hard to get out of your head. And I think that's going to be huge for Gordon coming back because he doesn't just have to be physically ready. He has to be mentally ready. And Absolutely. Very few players are the same player after a gruesome injury like that. So I obviously think that, Gordon can do it. But it's going to take a minute to get comfortable. So I think people need to keep that in mind.
I agree too. And but what impacted me with Gordon was though he went to Indiana, he was going back to San Diego or whatever to do training. He spent a hell of a lot of time in Boston. And early on training camp, preseason, he looked at times, you may know more than I do, I don't know, but he looked at times to be like a deer in headlights just to try and find his way around the city. So to have witnessed not just the outpouring of love that he got from the fans here and across the NBA, but particularly here in the city, but also just to be, around in your surroundings, around your new teammates, back with Brad Stevens. He may not have been playing, but he was definitely engaged. And to me, that I was so scared he was just going to go and be secluded back to, his home on the West Coast or wherever and not be around the team. So if after when they had the press conference for him in Waltham, after I asked him, will you be on the bench? Will we see you on the bench? And he was like, as soon as I'm cleared to do that, I'll be there. And that to me, as a, reporter, whatever, broadcaster, and as a fan, said, okay, this guy's committed to the city. He's here to stay, and he's going to come back. He's not going to have this whole adjustment period all over again. He'll have a season of observation at least.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that even though we had several guys on the bench with injuries and stuff, I think that their bond was still really strong. And that's only going to help. Having great chemistry is such an instrumental part of having a successful team. And I definitely think that if everyone is healthy next season, Banner 18 in 2019 is happening, and I don't care.
You just gave me the chills. We're like two fangirls here. Like, honestly,
exactly.
You just totally gave me the chills. Truth is, you said as long as everybody's healthy, and I agree. But one thing this season proved to both of us, I would say, is how eternally deep they are. So they can withstand some injuries, not like this past season. I mean, what happened this past season is kind of like an abomination. That doesn't normally happen. But if there's time where, Kyrie, he's never going to be an 80 game a year player. So if you play him 68 games, you have Rozier you could count on, or Marcus. If Gordon needs to play no back-to-backs in the first half of the season, okay, you got Brown. This team is the deepest Celtics team I've seen in my lifetime, and that's going back to the Bird era. It is the deepest team I've seen probably since '86.
I'm excited to see what we do and where we go from here, and I think we'll all feel kind of vindicated by the end of next season.
I think so. I mean, I hope so. I know the NBA is on alert. I mean, there's no question about it. Usually, you know exactly how it is. It's like you get the trolls on Twitter when your team loses, and you probably got a ton of them. You have a lot more followers engagement than me. But I had a hell of a lot of Sixers and Cavs fans saying, you know what, you guys have balls, and we're afraid of what's coming. A dynasty in the making.
Absolutely. I'm really excited. It'll be good. It'll be really good. I like this team, and I love, Brad's coaching style, and I think all of their hard work and the blood, sweat, and tears they put in this season is only going to make next season that much better. So yeah.
When Brad said, just give me 2 days from now and I'll be saying I wish it was training camp on Wednesday, I felt the same way. And it was so hard being in that press room and hearing the Cavaliers outside on our court, celebrating winning the championship. It was like, I can't imagine the pain that you were going through. Me as a fan, reporter, whatever, it was like I wanted to go out there and throw shit down with those guys. I would have got my ass kicked, but I wanted to boot them out. Where's security? Get them out of here. This is our court. It's Boston Garden, for crying out loud. You know what I mean? And that's not going to be forgotten easily, especially with your brother, the way he struggled against the Cavs over the years. It's only time. He will get his revenge. He will.
Yeah, I definitely think so. And I think it's funny that people bring that up a lot, is oh, your brother's 4 and, whatever against LeBron all time. It's do you know how many guys are sitting at home while Al's in the playoffs and didn't even get the opportunity to go up against the best every single fucking postseason? You're saying that it's a bad thing?
What infuriated me the most was Nick Wright with that nonsense, typical national media stance, Al's whatever against LeBron. I'm that's saying, okay, you're going back 10 years. That's saying LeBron is 0-3 against the Paul Pierce Celtics, right? Or LeBron had to leave and it's true, he had to leave the Cavs to beat the Celtics. Why are you pulling out useless stats? Those teams I don't even remember half the play. You do, but I don't even remember half the players on those Hawks team. The 08 players I remember. That was Al's rookie year, right there.
It was, yeah.
Seems
yeah.
like yesterday.
So yeah, I don't know. It'll definitely be interesting to see how everything unfolds, but you got to believe in Boston, and I think that we're going to do great things next season. And so we do need to eventually celebrate, maybe with some boxed wine.
Do they have boxed champagne?
I don't think that's a thing.
If it is, it will be flat, I would think.
Yeah, it would probably be
It would be
bad.
Sweet white wine, basically. We're going to get real bottles. Screw the Boda box. I'll save that for the next day when I'm hungover.
Patron, champagne, the whole 9 yards. Definitely. Well, Nick, thank you so much for joining me this week. It was awesome.
Great. Anna, it was so awesome. And thank you for working with us, because it's been one of, I would say probably, and I have no shame, and I'm proud to say this. You have been probably one of the most proudest people I've been able, you're there with Bob Ryan. I feel connected to your brother, even though I'm not. I am connected with you, and I love that you're embraced the podcasting industry, because I was one of the pioneers who helped start it. So for me to have somebody of your stature, social media wise, is just great. And I want you to always be a green teamer. Hopefully Al retires a Celtic. If not, I'm going to be heartbroken, but I'll be even more heartbroken if you're ever rooting for another team, because you are part of the Celtics culture now, and your name is mentioned so often. And I'm so proud usually when people say back, oh yeah, and she's on your network. You're a big part of the team, and I can't thank you enough.
Yeah, and I thank you guys. It's been an absolute pleasure. It's been awesome. And I think that even if Al doesn't remain with the Celtics for the rest of his career, I'm always going to be a Celtics fan just because of how much the city has embraced, our family. And I think that Al is, no matter where he goes, he's always going to have like a special place for the Celtics. And so, yeah, it's been amazing. And like I said, thank you so much for everything. And everyone else, you guys can catch up on all my other episodes on iTunes, Stitcher, and the CLNS Media Network. And I will talk to you guys again next week.